Okay, so in our last video, we talked about this failed cycle of weight loss that a lot of people end up in and usually repeat as well again and again. And I said that the next video will be about how to break out of it. And this is how, I found myself in this cycle quite a few times previously before I even started studying about weight loss, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. And this is essentially a little bit of a blueprint of how I broke out of it. So if you haven't watched that video and don't know what I'm talking about when I say cycle, it might be worth looking at that video again. But for a very quick overview, most of the time, for most people rather, this cycle looks like this, which is that you get a motivational moment where you want to lose weight. You then start something which is usually an extreme diet, which gives you instant results that last a couple of weeks. Essentially the first couple of weeks go really well. You end up in this really fantastic feeling after week 2, let's say, where you've lost a little bit of weight, you're feeling better, and you think you can do it forever. And then comes this massive downward drop, and you end up in this place of frustration where 3 weeks later the weight loss has plateaued. And I went into that in the video on why that happens and how our body responds to weight loss, but your weight loss was plateaued. You are now feeling really miserable, hungry, frustrated, and that's usually where people start to give up. And that's and then they start re-eating, and then the weight starts gaining, regaining, and then the whole cycle starts again. So they end up in a place where they put the weight back on, usually more weight than they first started off, or at least a worse off body composition. And again, I explained that in that video, so go back and watch that if you haven't. And then after some time has passed, it's like the whole thing starts again. And normally every repeated cycle that you do, you end up in a more and more extreme diet or a more extreme plan to try and lose weight, because people become sort of a bit guilty, shameful, and more desperate to try and do something that's going to have instant results with lower effort. And so today's video is basically how do we break out of this cycle. And the first thing to think about is most people think that to break out of the cycle, you need to prevent it from breaking down. You need to prevent this point here where you get down to the miserable, frustrated, hungry section. And people think that you need to, this section up here where you are feeling good, feeling happy all the time, and feeling like this is going to be a really successful weight loss journey, that you need to keep that feeling going forever, and that prevent this feeling of frustration and hunger. And when people try and break out of this cycle, that's where they go wrong, because that's where you, like, sort of common sense would say, this is where I need to work harder, this is where I need to put more effort in, this is where I need to be more disciplined, this is where I need to have better willpower. And that almost never works, because the way that our bodies are designed to fight back, let's say, against us when we start losing weight, that's not going to happen. You're just not going to have the willpower to prevent those hunger hormones, the efficiency that your body gets into burning calories as well, to withstand that feeling of hunger, frustration, misery, and weight regain. So this drop here is not where we actually want to try and get out of this cycle. How I got out of this cycle and where you should start putting all your efforts in is actually in this initial bit, from getting the self-motivation moment to this sudden sort of peak high after a couple of weeks where you get these instant results and you start feeling like the scale's going down, I feel good, I can do this forever. That's where we need to break out of this cycle, and that's where I broke out of this cycle. Because if you are getting results after 2 weeks that are so drastic that you feel like the significance, that you can see significant results after 2 weeks, like, there's an extreme drop, let's say over 2 to 3 kilos or 6-7 pounds of weight lost in those first couple of weeks, that you're feeling like a dress size has gone down or a belt size has gone down, or you're just feeling like that this is a diet that I can do forever, but because I'm just feeling like I've gotten such instant results in the mirror, then the likelihood is that you're in the cycle, and that in 3 weeks time you're going to be miserable. If you want to break out of this cycle, you have to get to a point where you learn how to do it. And that takes trial and error, and it takes persistence and commitment. If we imagine that instead of having this cycle, we're going to give ourselves 12 months to figure out how to break out of the cycle and to lose weight slowly and sustainably. If we say, let's give ourselves a 12-month timeline, to implement some fundamentals, to learn some fundamentals of weight loss, like some rules of weight loss that we won't break. And that's not on a micro level. That's not that, that means that if I don't follow the rules every single day, that I failed and I might as well start back. And not that. Just some overarching rules that we follow in our life for 12 months, and we adapt as we go along. But we want to see consistent but slow results over those 12 months. So we're looking at results after 12 months. We're not really, we haven't reached the destination before 12 months. So anything we do in that 12 months can be adapted, and we can chop and change it. If we look at it like that, rather than how quickly am I going to see the results, and we follow fundamentals, then after 2 weeks, you should almost notice barely any difference. You may have lost a little bit of weight. You may have noticed slight changes in the way your energy, in the way that you're feeling, but it's not going to be anything to scream and shout about. And this is nothing to write home about. You're 2 weeks into a 52-week journey. You are learning what works for you, because there are fundamentals to weight loss. But in the minutiae, there's going to be so many different things that work for you that may not work for other people. So there's not going to be a step-by-step, easy blueprint guide to weight loss. There's going to be basic overarching rules that you need to follow, and ignore everything else and find out what works for you. Intermittent fasting might work for you, it might not. Eating red meat might work for you, it might not. Veganism might work for you, it might not. Those little things are what people get so bogged down in. This food is a sin, this food is not a sin, this is a bad food, this is a good food. We get bogged down in small things and we ignore the overarching rules. In my case, I built my initial fundamental, and I only focused on one fundamental at the beginning, on high satiety foods. High satiety foods mean foods that give you the most fullness. I've done videos on this before. Foods that are high on the satiety index, so they're going to keep you full. I broke out of this cycle by, instead of looking for quick results in the first month or by summer holidays or by the time my next beach holiday was, I went for, I'm going to give myself a year and I'm going to base it on basic rules. And I started with what I think is the most important rule, which is satiety, high satiety foods. And those are usually low calorie density foods. Those are foods that are large in volume, but low in calories. They fill your stomach up. They don't provide a high amount of calories per amount of food. If you base your diet on that, so if you start with that, you're still going to probably have a snack here or there. You're still probably going to have the odd junk food. You're still going to have this hedonic aspect of eating where you feel pleasure from eating. In the first couple of weeks, you are not going to see drastic changes to the scales. And that's a good thing. Now we are breaking out of the cycle, because no longer are we going to go up and then drop back down. But actually, we're going to start very slowly moving up in a linear fashion. So we're not going to shoot up. We're going to start a slow uptake. And eventually, when you get to month 10, 11, 12, believe me, you can see incredible results and really shoot up. But I don't want you to be telling people about this in 2 weeks' time. I don't want you to be like saying, that's it, I found the diet that's going to work for me. I found the program that's going to work for me. And this is all I need. I'm done. This is the first rule. And this is how I did it. High satiety foods. So 80% of my diet was made up of foods that I felt were higher on the satiety index. So I went for foods like, obviously your whole unprocessed foods, so your veggies, but not just like a salad, because like salad leaves are not that filling. And yes, they're very, very low in calories, but they also have like almost no volume. I mean, like you have to eat so much of it to get to feel full. But your whole grain foods, your beans, so lentils, chickpeas. I use white potatoes a lot. I used to boil white potatoes, new baby potatoes, just in salt. I can't remember what they're called. Syracuse potatoes, is it a dish? It's really, really, really tasty. It sounds terrible, but it's actually really tasty. And it's just baked potatoes and salt, white potatoes. White potatoes are really, really high on a satiety index. They keep you full. They're not that high in calories. And I'm not getting into health right now. We're not talking about health. The priority, the goal, remember, don't get distracted. The goal is weight loss. You want to break out of this cycle. So things like chickpeas, lentils, black beans, red beans, kidney beans, white potatoes, sweet potatoes. I would add high quantities of these to my foods, which usually had a good amount of protein in them. So I used to eat a lot of chicken, I used to eat a lot of beef, lean minced beef, but I would add these foods and then a lot of veggies as well, because we know that there's an element of health to them that provide energy, nutrition, minerals and vitamins that we need, but also because they also are high satiety foods to an extent. They're low calorie density foods. The mistake that people make when they first start diets is they take away. They go down in eating. They say, I'm going to eat less to lose weight, because that's logical. I need to lose something, so I better remove everything. And then they end up eating bird food. They eat just some salad with a little bit of seeds and that's it, and a little bit of protein with it, and it doesn't fill you up. It's not anywhere near filling enough. There's a list of high satiety foods. There's a list of foods that keep you the fullest, and those are the foods that I would base my diet on. And it's crazy to say, because there's so many other fundamentals, and I'm going to get into that in other videos. I'm going to go over, in fact, in the next video soon, the fundamentals of weight loss, and they include sleep and hydration and insulin, managing your insulin, and stress. But high satiety foods for me broke this cycle and did 80% of the job. I got to a healthy weight, healthy BMI, feeling better, being able to do a lot more in the gym, just purely basing my diet on this. And I still had snacks here and there, I still had junk food here and there, but once you start implementing this fundamental, it's so much easier to resist. If I ate bird food, then it's so easy to be starving by the end of the day and then go for the chocolate and the junk food or the burgers or whatever, because you're starving and you can't resist that. That hunger hormone is way more powerful than your willpower. Breaking free of this cycle involves picking a fundamental, and the fundamental should not be a rule like you can only eat between these hours. That's not a fundamental. A fundamental should be based on something like sleep, hydration, satiety, insulin. It's something where you can eat a variety of different ways around that fundamental. If I say the fundamental is ketogenic diet or vegan diet or intermittent fasting, that's not a fundamental. That's a way of living. That's a way of eating. You can eat an unhealthy, calorie-heavy ketogenic diet. You're removing what you can eat. You are excluding things. So you can exclude all animal-based products, but you can eat a whole bunch of keto-friendly ice cream and cakes and shit. That you're not going to lose weight. That diet is not a fundamental. That is just a way of eating where you exclude something. That is, you're back in a cycle of weight gain. To break free, you have to pick a fundamental of weight loss, and you base your majority of your diet without any strict rules around that fundamental. And my advice would be satiety. That's how I did it. That is the easiest way for me to stop eating and break your old habits. Stop eating the way that you ate and break really bad old habits. If you are full, it is a lot easier to have the willpower to not eat the foods that you ate and behave in the way that you used to behave. And then there are other fundamentals that I'll add in, and I'll do another video on that later on. The best analogy I can do for this is, I don't know if this statistic is true, probably not. As all statistics that you find as all quotes that you find on social media, this is probably not true. But I heard something that says something like 70% of lottery winners end up bankrupt. That's because a lottery winner did not make their money by learning how to get rich. They didn't make their own money. They didn't learn the fundamentals of gaining wealth. They just got given it to them. And so within a year or 2 years or whatever it is, 70% of them, apparently, this might not be a true statistic, end up bankrupt. But the reason why I like that analogy is because any diet, fad diet, any quick fix diet, any medication, anything that you think is gonna quickly get you results in the next 2 months to a place that you want to be, a goal weight that you want to be, is not going to do it, because you have not learnt how your body works. You have not picked basic rules. You've not learnt how to get wealthy, healthy weight. You've not learnt that skill. You've not built it up. You've not spent time doing it. If you give yourself 12 months to start implementing fundamentals and learning what works for you, you might find that it's so easy to resist eating food until 3-4 p.m. and then that's when you get your hunger cravings. Or you might find that breakfast is where you struggle, and that's where your higher satiety foods need to be. You need to learn what works for you. You need to pick fundamentals and build and build and build and build upon them. And I guarantee you, a year passes so quickly. 2 years passes so quickly. We look back and we always say, oh my God, has it already been that long? long? Has it already been 5 years since COVID? Has it already been? If you don't want to be in the same place in a couple of years, stop thinking about a year as, oh, that's too long though, I've got a wedding in 2 months. It doesn't matter. Pick a long time frame. Start learning how to do this. In a year or two's time, you will look back and you will never you'll never fall into this weight loss failure cycle again. You will break free of it. This is how you break free of the cycle, and you break free of it from here. You break free of it from the point where you are elated after 2 weeks with these instant results. You start building habits that are going to build a foundation that is going to, at the end of it, bring incredible results. For me, it's high satiety foods. I'm going to list that index again in the description of high satiety foods that I think you can start implementing. I said the ones that I really like. You don't have to pick those. Those are the ones that work for me. Start with that. Start building with that. I don't want to hear anything about it in 2 weeks. I want to hear about it in 2 years. I hope that helped. I'm going to do some more videos on the fundamentals of weight loss to try and help. Yeah, I hope that helped. And if you enjoyed what you heard or have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment section. I'll try and answer them. Otherwise, I will see you all very soon.